In the part of town they say London is red, in the weary dreams in every gunner's head, there dances a prince with skill so rich. It's Mr. Martin Odegaard, the poet of the pitch. His boots hum secrets, spinning mythical tale, as he weaves through defenders, watching each of them fail. Each touch a sonnet, each pass a rhyme, the ball on foot, a muse keeping time. His eyes, two constellations ablaze, mapping trajectories and plotting ballets. He pirouettes, Baryshnikov in boots, thrilling North London with his Norse god roots. Golden threads of brilliance connect his soul from the snowy fjords of home to the Emirates gold. He paints the pitch with hues unseen, a canvas of magic, a symphony keen. So raise your voices, let all gunners sing of our Norwegian wizard, our midfield king. Two magical moments and feats so great, to Martin Odegaard, the Arsenal number 8. Welcome back to the Stoop, football fans. It's Lolo here with you on another Friday night, coming to you from below the stoop in the basement. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope y'all enjoyed that little ode to Odegaard that I made today. I just I've been thinking Odegaard he's absolutely killing it for Arsenal, and every Arsenal fan knows he's the heartbeat right now. He's the one that's keeping us ticking. As good a season as everybody's doing.
Do you mind? I have to get that vomit out of my mouth. With that.
Oh, get out of here. Cheers to you all. Crack them if you got them. It's Friday night. Let's talk football. All right, everybody. We are talking financial fair play and the problem with point deductions. So right before we get into all that, let me just say hi to everybody who's been in the chat already. Pincushion, very good to see you. Alonzo, the Arsenal True X Galaxy podcast. Good to see you as well. And yes, Alonzo, I'll send you a link momentarily once I finish with this intro. Ben, Arizona, very good to see you as well. So I just want to get into a little bit of my grievance with the whole point deduction situation. Now, here we're sitting with 10 weeks left in the Premier League, and we're still hearing about possible point deductions, about appealing point deductions. Nottingham Forest just got deducted last week or the week before. This, in my opinion, is far too late for any point deductions. It's something that if we're going to be doing point deductions for financial fair play, those need to happen in the off season, and they need to be sorted and settled. With the amount of money floating around the Premier League, you mean to tell me that they can't get this business done in the off season? It's unbelievable. The team should come into the season knowing how many points they've been deducted, if they're going to be deducted points. Then they can deal with their appeals during the season. Then we'll see from there. But you can't be having teams who are fighting for their lives and then all of a sudden being hit with an additional 10 points, 6 points, whatever it may be. Because look, there's a conspiracy theory out there right now that Manchester City have a possibility of being deducted points this season. But that possibility only comes into play once they are technically eliminated from winning the Premier League. That means when we have 1 or 2 weeks left, if Liverpool or Arsenal are far enough away from Manchester City that they cannot win it, then yeah, boom, points deduction. They get a 10-point deduction. They're still in the top 4. They're still in Champions League. Basically the same thing as coming in second or third, and possibly even 5th place if there's a 5th spot in the Champions League. They are still in the Champions League tournament as we speak. So that's the conspiracy theory, is where they're going to wait to give Manchester City a point deduction once it doesn't matter to them. And if that were to happen, it just continues to make it seem like everything is set up for one set of rules for the Big Six and one set of rules for everybody else. Now, why is it taking so long for Manchester City to get their 150 grievances, or 150, whatever they're called, 151 cases against them, or whatever the word I'm trying to think of is? Why does that one take so much longer than the Nottingham Forest one or the Everton one? And I'll tell you, it's just like if you as a person were walking down the street and you killed somebody. You would be arrested, thrown in jail, tried, and probably in jail for the rest of your life within a few months. Now, if you're the president of a massive corporation who kills 151 people, well, you may not be arrested right away. And once you finally get arrested, it's going to take a while to get any cases against you, and you're going to be pulled out of jail and bailed out, and you're going to sit around, and it'll be years and years and years and years, and we'll see if anything ever happens. So that's the same the analogy works for what I'm saying with this. Nottingham Forest and Everton are the individual people who, one little crime of murder, we can deal with that. We can't deal with you killing a whole 151 people. We'll get to that eventually. So that's the sort of situation we're in right now, where it's one set of rules for one set of clubs and another set of rules for everybody else. So my final thought here, the point that I want to nail home on before I bring Mark on to tell me what's going on, is I think points deductions, if they're going to happen, need to be at a set time, even if it's a couple weeks into the season. As long as we know within 3 weeks of the start of the season, by match day 3, we know who's getting deducted points. They may be deducted points next season, but it's not hanging over everybody's head. I mean, just think Liverpool and Arsenal dropped some points. They still have in the back of their head, well, City could be deducted points. It's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen, pal. So let me bring on Mark. Let's get Mark out here so I can take a sip of my beer. Mark, good to see you, my friend. I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. I was making sure I was good and
Better the other
silent
way.
for you.
It was better the other way.
It was better the other way. Well, what I was going to say, or what I was getting into saying, is that I do agree with you to the point of that this has to happen in a timely fashion. It does have to happen early. It does need to happen in the off season so these teams know what they're going into. I don't necessarily like it at the midpoint of the season where a team like Everton, who deserves to be punished, but it's not much of a punishment if you can advance beyond the deduction. Same thing with Nottingham Forest. Where I don't agree with you, or maybe I agree with you in a certain sense, but I don't think it's as easy as you make it sound. You had said that Man City, why is it taking so long to process these 115 charges of FFP or S&P, whatever they're calling it these days? It's sure. It would be easy. You would think it would be easy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But a team like Everton is worth $330 million. And to sift through that and find discrepancies and find issues within profitability and sustainability is a lot easier than in the case of Man City, who have a valuation of $1.25 billion. That's a little more complicated to sift through. And you want to make sure, especially when you have, mounting charges of 115 and counting, so I don't think it's quite all that easy to process, and then plus, given the capital, even just with the ownership, we know what happened. What was it, 3-4 years ago when FFP raised its head for City and they appealed and it was kind of, swept under the rug, and they've got good lawyers. They've got They've got people that can just stave it and stave it and stave it and stave it until it doesn't matter, you know, until Pep is gone and it's long forgotten, you know. So I in one hand, I agree with you. It needs to happen before the season. I missed the whole shindig because I got high. Fantastic. BX Gunner in the house, getting high. I wish I was high, and I will be later on tonight. But I just don't think it's as easy, you know, for say like a City, you know, or a Chelsea, where you have these very complicated contracts and you have these very complicated numbers. I mean, $1.2 billion is a lot harder to sift through.
Oh, Mark, you're speaking for you're speaking for the big man here. You're saying
I'm not speaking for anybody. We're
saying the rich people are exempt from a speedy process because it's too complicated. It's not too complicated. Yes, I understand 300 million is different than 2 billion. I get it. But these lawyers are making millions of dollars a year. They can focus and say, let's get our work done. Now here's part of the big issue. So I was looking into all the legality, the actual rules and everything. And I feel like this is the one point that is where we're having a problem with. Clubs are evaluated over a rolling 3-season period. The total losses during this time should not exceed a certain threshold, which means
it's 35 million a year.
We're not looking at this season. We're looking at last season, the season before, and the season before. Now, correct. As soon as this season, they may have a case that might be ready to go, but then we just went over that line. You can no longer include that season 3 years ago because now you got to include this season. And so now they got to redo the case, and teams are rolling out of their problems by just continuing to add on problems, it seems like, because Manchester City's goes 10 years or so. So where is this rolling 3-season period? They're never going to be able to. I understand why they want the rolling 3-season thing, because if you have a bad year, a calamitous year, it shouldn't ruin you legally. Like, it shouldn't totally destroy you, put you out of financial fair play.
But hold on a second. I thought the rolling 3 years was implemented because of COVID. And because of COVID, that they decided to create this rolling kind of engagement period. I'm not really sure, but I was under the impression it was because of COVID. It's, I don't know. I wish I knew more. Financial fair play, or what is now known as S&P, because they decided that fair play wasn't exactly a PC way to put this whole program, because obviously, when you have and this is one of the things I read about the new rule. Like, there's a new set of rules that are hopefully that they hope to unveil in a couple years. I think in 2025, so next season or the season after that. And it has something to do with Champions League, that like you can only spend up to 70% of your profits toward payroll and transfer signings or something like that. I'm not really sure what I read. The whole thing is kind of lost. I mean, I'm not a financial guy, but that just doesn't make sense. You have a team like City that's like 70% of $1 billion is a lot of signings. If someone like, say, my squad, Wolverhampton, 70% of 300 million is not a lot of money to bolster a squad.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's what it is. Yes. Thanks, Mr. Tom. Mr. Tom is probably going to be able to shine a little more light on this, because
let's go ahead and get him on here, because between him and Chris in the private chat, Chris is explaining everything in the private chat.
There's going to be so much crowd error correction on this episode.
They would have to watch, Chris. So this is what we are
The
threatening. We are going to do an entire show about the S&P 500, FFP,
the S&P,
and a bunch of other
150.
letters.
The rolling
And we are
3
going to say
years,
everything wrong. So we dare you to watch the show and correct us.
I don't think you can roll out of your problem. I think every year is evaluated based on the previous rolling 3 years. That's why the charges go back so far, because this period's bad, this period's bad, this period's bad. Right? Like,
yeah.
even if
So
even
what
if,
if
even
you
if they
just
get
get
under
1 year to break the cycle? What if you just get 1 year to break the
yeah,
cycle?
but you're still you could still be in violation the previous year for the previous 36 months, or the year before that for the previous 36 months. That's why it's evaluated, I think, annually on a rolling 3-year period. So you can't just like have one really good year and get yourself out of the problem, because the problem goes back into history.
Right.
Maybe.
It's like a, your taxes are auditable for the last 7 years, even if you did them
Right.
like
Yeah.
this year.
The 7-year stretch, so to speak. Yeah, I was reading on some of the new, like some of the things that they want to pass, one being that 70%. And then also the I'm probably good at, well, because I butcher words and names so well on this show, but the amortization of contracts. So like Chelsea, they signed Concedo or whoever to a huge fucking amount of money, and as far as like a transfer, and they spread it out over 8 to 10 years. That's one way that the league has found out that teams are kind of skirting this. So what they want to do is, I think they want to put like a 4-year limit on it or something like that, which I think would be pretty good, but it doesn't solve the problem up until now.
So all contracts are amortizable like that. So whether you pay all the cash up front or whether you pay over multiple years, basically in FFP, when they're looking at your profitability, so if you sign, for simplicity, 8 years, 80 million, you're only, when you're looking at their profit and loss statement, you're only showing 10 million a year, because the contract is 8 years. It's basically saying you bought a contract that will last you 8 years. You don't have to take the hit on your profit and loss statement immediately.
But that's why this season they were like, they saw Chelsea doing that and they said, whoa, no more of that. So I think they cut that down so you can no longer sign players to 8 years or so.
Well, they were signing like 8.5 and 9-year deals. But, I mean, the thing is, if they don't get their shit turned around, they do fuck themselves as well. Like it might as well, like they might be helping themselves now, but they're making it much harder to sign players in the future, because they're still, maybe not cash wise, but on their FFP statements, it's almost like they have to pay for those deals that are 5 years old, 8 years old, 2 years old. So that's why Chelsea, like if they don't get in my mind, the Champions League next season could turn into a basket case.
Yeah, and then they end up having to look at selling all their homegrown players, because those are the most, like, those take the most, they're the most profitable to them, even if the money isn't as high as other players, like selling what's his name? Not Palmer.
How much do we get for Najee on the open market?
They sold Mason Mount to Man United.
Yeah, selling Mason Mount to Man United. Mount was a Chelsea kid, so they didn't. All that money is income, as opposed to selling Raheem Sterling. I don't know what they paid for him, but
so you recognize your sales immediately, but like if they sell Mudryk for 20 million next year, they'll take a loss on him, because they've only amortized, let's say, 20 million of the initial. What they paid, 75, 100.
Yeah. So
it's at that point that they would recognize a huge loss on transfer, because there's only whatever.
But would that not would you still say no?
You
we
stop
got 20
amortizing
million
the deal
back.
when you sell the player.
We're minus 10 next year, and then minus 10 the year after that, and then minus 10 the year
rules
after
on
that.
Though. They've immediately, because they saw that Chelsea planned on doing 8-year contracts, which obviously would allow them to spend more money down the line when this current crop doesn't work, which looks like the case. So they've basically changed it to you can't offer an 8-year contract, or you can offer an 8-year contract, but you can't pay it off for 8 years. It has to be paid in 5.
Right.
But if
because that's what Todd Bowley brought in from the Dodgers, because like he signed the Japanese player for like $750 million, but it's spread out over 15 years. So it's not nearly as crushing, although there's no salary cap in either sport.
What's going to happen is that they won't be able to sell those players that are on the 8-year deals because they'll take immediate losses if they're not like what they'll do is just remember they had this guy named Lucas Paethan from Brazil. They just loaned him out for like 10 years. Like that's what you'll see happen because
they've got about 20
because
players.
If they sell them, they can no longer amortize the transfer fee. They have to run it through their P&L immediately if they sell a player, and then it would kill their P&L.
The reality is they've got a lot of players right now that they bought on Champions League money. And unless they re-become a Champions League club, they're not going to sell the same players and get Champions League money for them, even from Champions League clubs. Yeah. Not that a lot of their players are actually playing in a way that's worthy of going to a Champions League club, but
that's why I think they have a 2-year window. Like they need to, if they don't get back into the Champions League, I think in 2 years, I think it could be a financial free fall for them. Especially if these FFP charges go through. Like they could become Portsmouth.
This is just mad. It's created this situation where teams are going to quickly learn that the punishment doesn't actually outweigh the crime. And
absolutely,
it was worth Everton overspending on players that got them the 3 or so points required to stay up. And it's probably going to be the case again this year.
Yeah, and it also seems none of those contracts are going to have like relegation clauses in them because no one ever would expect Chelsea to get relegated.
Right. And it also seems that Nottingham Forest last year and in the summer this year, we're kind of banking on that. They're like, what we're doing isn't exactly, legal according to the rules, but we might get the right combination of players in that it might not make a difference. We might, the net points will go in. They gambled to say that the net points would go into their favor.
But I wouldn't be surprised with how big these clubs are and how lawyered up they are, and how well resourced they are, that like a Man City hasn't gone to like a large insurance company and said, I want you to insure us if we go down with FFP. We'll pay you whatever it is, a $10 million, $100 million premium a year.
Sure.
In the case that we go down because of FFP, that insurance policy will pay out $500 million. Like that's the type of resources these clubs have.
Well, let me ask you guys that. I'm sure something like that is in play, Chris. If we've thought of it here on our show, I'm sure their billion-dollar lawyers have thought.
Man City, have you thought about this idea?
Yeah, don't fucking tell them.
They watch their show. Chris could get
it's like Coca-Cola, but it doesn't have sugar in it.
Right.
Tom, what is the so I understand parachute payments when you get relegated, but how much, like, what's the difference in money from staying up to being relegated?
Is put it this way: it's worth cheating to try and stay up, clearly, because Everton did it. And Nottingham Forest have done it. Leicester tried it. The reality is I think Leeds will get in the summer. We will get about £90 million. It may have been slightly reduced, but that again, you get that at the end of the season. You don't get that the first day you're in the championship, back in the championship.
Yeah,
but And then basically, if we then get promoted, we don't get the money at all. But that's the ideal situation, because then you go, oh, we're going to forego the 90 million from the Premier League for the Championship, but hello, 200 million from Sky TV.
Yeah.
And that's like minimum ballpark.
So you answered my question straight away, my deeper question, which was, does it make financial sense to go ahead and cheat? Because this is what Mark and I were screaming about all last season with Nottingham Forest of like, how do they keep signing people? They just got Keylor Navas.
Yep.
They
get 4 points deducted. What did they get deducted?
They had 4 points. 4 points deducted.
So they're at 4 and Everton's 6.
It's technically
6, but I think Everton's going to get more.
Nottingham Forest technically got 6, but they've received back 2 points because they cooperated with the investigation. But have they cooperated with the investigation? Because they're now suing them.
Right.
That's like
they're appealing
33% sale price there.
Involved.
So here's my thing: is
fair enough.
If you are say this season coming up, Ipswich Town makes it, haven't been up in a sheep's age, as nobody says in the world.
How old are sheep?
They haven't been up in a sheep's age. Not how old they are, but the age of sheeps. However,
elderly sheep.
The idea of
sheep out there going, I remember when Ipswich were in the UEFA Cup.
But what I'm saying is, if they come up and they go, okay, let's see, look at last season. Burnley, the year before, demolished the Championship. They go up and they get made to look piss poor by most of the Premier League and will probably go down. So it would behoove us, if our books for the last 2-3 years, because we have that 3-year rolling thing, if our books are okay, why not just blow it out and spend way over in the hopes that we can stay up, and the next season we can replenish the ranks, and we will be able to cope with a 4 to 10 point deduction to stay up again. Like, isn't that worth the gamble?
I think the teams in the Championship run on such a thin margin, they don't create a lot of buffer room for that initial big spend. So
what Ipswich,
but Forest,
with,
you know,
I guess you do get a big prize for promotion, right, Tom?
Yeah, but a lot of teams come up with a squad. Like, for example, if Leeds come up, then we've got a squad to go, and we've got players that were previously out on loan coming back. Nottingham Forest got promoted with like a squad of 10 players, like legally what they owned, because most of their squad were loanees from the Premier League. So they essentially had to go out and buy a whole new squad, which everyone at the time looked at it and went, you're going to fail financial fair play because you're throwing money around like it's confetti. But then the bigger problem with that is they could have avoided a lot of this trouble, because they've got players that they're paying 40 grand a week to that haven't played a game for Nottingham Forest in 2 years. I think Joe Lolly's one of them, I believe, off the top of my head. But they've essentially they bought far too many players they'd never actually need, because they thought it looked really cool on sports news when it was Nottingham Forest have signed their 25th player of the transfer window. It's like, yeah, that looks really cool. That makes for a great headline, makes you look really proactive. But then when the Premier League, FIFA, whoever, UEFA, whoever, are like, okay, let me have a look at your accounts. They're like, oh yeah, we've lost because we bought 10 players that we didn't need, sort of thing.
It's almost like if you're going to spend that much, you have to make sure you stay up, because if you don't, that's the free fall, because then you have to cut your spending while you're in the Championship. Then
no, Chris, the financial fair play is the Premier League and the EFL are separate ones. So that's why Leicester is being dealt, like, they have issues with financial fair play. They won't see
a deduction until if they go up.
Yeah.
The year less promoted.
There needs to be content. That's a big problem.
Exactly. This is where we're all screwed.
But
that's why you're
does,
saying what you said about
this situation by the Premier League bringing light to, violation of the S&P or the FFP, whatever we're calling it these days, will bring the attention to the EFL to where they will conduct their own investigation and possibly deduct points from from this season. But I don't see it happening. What is there's 15 games left in the championship, roughly 15.
Well, more than that, Brownlee.
Is there?
No, in the Premier League, there's
9 games left in the Premier League.
Oh, sorry. In the Championship, I think there's 8. Some teams have 9 or 10 because of fixture congestion.
10 games left in the Premier League.
Look at that table.
Southampton have 10. We have 8.
Right.
Well, guys, that has been really interesting talk. But you're boring. It's time to bring on somebody who actually knows what he's talking about. Because he supports the correct club. Everybody, let's bring on Alonzo, aka Lonnie, at the Arsenal True X Galaxy podcast. What's up, Alonzo? How are you, Lonnie?
Doing all right. Yeah, just hanging out, watching some college basketball, and I made the best team win, I guess. But yeah, good to hear you guys chat it up tonight. Good to see you, Lolo, Tom, Mark, and Chris. Man. Good to see you guys.
So, have you been following our conversation at all, or did you have us on mute?
I know.
I have us on mute most of the time.
We weren't following it either, so don't worry.
I wait for people's mouths to stop moving, and then I just jump in.
I was listening to you guys talk about that stuff, and it's kind of sad how, like you said, how it's taken this long for City to get prosecuted, in the sense that it's taken this long for it to come out, and we're all waiting to see what happens with City's, I guess, their punishment, and in the sense it's kind of, I don't know, discouraging because it seems like the FA are trying to pick out the small teams. Well, not small like Everton, but like Leicester and in the Forest. But Everton are an interesting case, in my opinion, because they've been around for a long time in the Premier League. So, historically they're a mid-table team, but they've fallen off quite some past 4 years. They've fallen off in the table and now becoming a regulation club, I guess, and it's kind of embarrassing, actually. So, yeah, I've been listening to what you guys had to say, and I think, like Chris said, I wonder if they're going to hire anyone that's going to ensure them that they're going to fight it out. And knowing the City and the people that have there, you question, are they going to fight it? Are they going to get away with it? Because as an Arsenal fan, I'm sure other fans of other clubs as well feel the same way, that they should be punished right now. And it's kind of disheartening as a football fan.
Yeah, I think you're saying that they'll be able to hire people to help them to not breach in the future.
Like Chris said, I think that they'll probably hire someone to reassure them that they'll be safe, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah,
but
I feel leaning more towards Chris is like, they're starting to see what a shambolic process this all is, and who knows what's actually happening. They're not going to hire people to make sure they don't breach financial fair play. They're going to hire people to find out how can we tweak this to make it as difficult and complicated as possible, to drag it out for as long as possible, that now we're talking, you want to take our title from 6 years ago? Not going to happen. You want to relegate us? Not going to happen.
Remember, lawyers are paid hourly. Like, there's no money in this being simple.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the lawyers are also paid not to take it to court, and because that's a bad lawyer, because that's when you're like spending a lot of hours, and not all lawyers are paid by the hour, because I guarantee you that each and every club has a team of lawyers on retainer. They get an X amount per month, per session, whatever that is. But yeah, they will be paid to find ways to negotiate, to do all the things that lawyers do to avoid the worst penalty. And a team like Man City has the resources, because they're a $1 billion club, to hire the best lawyers and to look. I bet you anything that the conversation between Man City and the lawyers that they've hired goes something like this: we don't care if we lose. We just want this tied up in the courts and tied up in the boardroom, in the negotiation room, for as long as it takes for someone to go, fuck it, this isn't worth it anymore. That's what these lawyers are designed and hired to do, is to postpone and postpone and postpone, as certain political figures in this country have figured out.
My question is that my best hope, I'm sure you guys could agree, that we all want a severe punishment, right? And I remember it was maybe 2011, or maybe 2013, whenever Rangers got that punishment, right? They got sent the lowest of lows in the Scottish leagues, right? That's my best hope, but it won't get that far, because we all know that City had the money, unlike Rangers, to fight this thing. And it's like you said, Mark, how it will drag on until years and years that it will be left alone, where they weren't I guess if they don't want to fight it. And it's kind of sad, because there should be accountability there.
Don't you ever say anything bad about my Rangers.
Let's go Rangers. Here's a question for you. Like, I think we all want, I haven't read up on this shit. I don't know what they did wrong and didn't do wrong. I'm assuming they probably did a little bit of both. As a fan, especially Lolo, you as a fan of Arsenal, where you're fighting Man City in the table for not do you want them to be penalized this year, or do you want to be able to win without that clouding the result?
I mean, clearly, I would want to win. I don't want
asterisks
the
everywhere.
Point deduction to help Arsenal. It inherently will whenever it happens, because they are one of our main rivals these days. This season, it would absolutely ruin. It would ruin this season for them to get any point deduction this season. It's too late. To me, it's too late in the season. It's too fucking late in the season to be doing this to any club. But right now, we are set up for one of the best last 10 weeks that I've ever seen. I don't know about older fans but right now, it is a literal toss-up of 3 different clubs. Yeah. And if all of a sudden they were deducted 10 points, then you're like, oh, well, now it's Arsenal and Liverpool. And then you got to hear all the people going, oh, well, now it's a Klopp conspiracy. They just want Klopp. It's like, no. Just fucking
the closest
either do it or don't.
The closest top 3, I think, in 10 years. That 2014 season, I think there was only 4 points between the top 3 teams at the end of the year.
Very rare. Very rare you get a 3-team title race at this stage in the season.
Yeah.
Like, what Chris said is true. I have no reason to doubt it. But even before then, it would have been even rarer. Like, you'd have probably then gone back to, like, year 2000s, maybe even 99, something like that.
Who's the top 3 teams? Was it City, Chelsea, United?
Sorry, when's that, Alonso?
When?
Was it 2014?
No, it was a City, Liverpool, Chelsea. That was the year of the Gerrard slip.
You're talking 13, 14, right?
Yeah, 13, 14. I think that they ended up on 86, 84, and maybe like 81, something like that.
Okay. That was Arsenal's last year at Nike, right?
4 points separated the top three in the final. City winning it. Arsenal finished 7 points back. Everton and
Everton was
finished 14.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Everton was good. That was good that year. Arsenal was good that year too. It was definitely a tight table.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Mo. It would be an asterisk win of the league if there was some sort of deduction there. And then, like,
is it an asterisk if you win without the deduction and they still get a like if they got the deduction now and maybe it weighed on them mentally, but you still beat them in a point race without it?
No.
Let's project our minds 10, 15 years in the future. I'm at a bar and a Man City fan walks in. We start bantering. It's all friendly, but da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, but you remember 22, 23, 24. We won the league for the first time in forever. We haven't won it since, but we won the league. We beat y'all. And he's gonna say,
yeah, well, you wouldn't have gotten it if we hadn't gotten that point deduction. You wouldn't have won.
And then I will have to say, no, mathematically, we still would have won. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't remember. It was so, yeah, right. There's no, I'm not going to look it up.
Took our foot off the gas penalty.
And he walks away, and that guy wins this argument by being forgetful of. That's what I don't want.
The championship at that time.
But 2014 wasn't a bad year because we ended up winning the FA Cup.
All went up 2 goals, and then you
guys. Yeah.
So what do you guys?
Sorry, that to me was Koscielny's finest moment. He took that goal off the ankle, right? That was awesome, man. I miss Koscielny. I'm just saying.
I do too. It ended poorly with him.
It did.
But I loved him. He was our Kieran Tierney had a little Koscielny in him, I thought.
Oh yeah.
So what do you guys think about the conspiracy theory I presented at the top of the show, where the only way Manchester City will actually get a deduction this season is once it's mathematically impossible for them to win the league?
Can I go first?
No, that's not a thing.
Yeah, please.
Can I tell you what I think is going to happen? I think
no. Lonnie asked if he could go first. Chris, God damn it. Have a little decorum in this show.
Sorry, Christy.
He's like, my kid's been asleep since 6. I'm ready to go.
I mean, that theory, though, it kind of does make sense, but then it doesn't. Because, like, to me, like, I as a fan, Arsenal want to win. I want Arsenal to win it fair and square. I want them to be able to prove that they deserve to win a championship, not having City. It seems like it seems like all hard work went out to win it for nothing, basically. And I know it's dumb to say, but City have won it so many times. Yeah, and I think once a team are in turmoil, then they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't be able to win it based on that. But I think Arsenal should win it outright, but do it the right way. We shouldn't have to depend on City's wrongdoing for us to win it, or Liverpool for that matter. So, if he's done, I'm going to do it the hard way, not the easy way. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll tell you what annoys me about the discourse on this thing. Is that anytime anything happens relating to FFP, like whether it comes out Leicester have fouled it, Nottingham Forest have fouled it, Everton fouled it, straight away everyone turns on to, but what about Man City? What about Man City, bro?
Mm-hmm.
What about them? It's 115 charges. If it takes them like 7 years to fucking get Leicester on one charge, fucking get your grandkids to fucking worry about what's going to happen to Man City. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Fuck Everton as well. Fuck them.
Yeah.
All right.
Lonnie,
guys,
if you can't do it the hard way, then doing it the easy way is second place.
the Arsenal way, right?
Oh my God. Well, you guys have been fun, but once again, I don't like anything that you're saying. So I've gone and scoured the internet for anybody who knows a little bit more about anything, and I found somebody.
What are you talking about? We
Arsenal
filled 45 minutes.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Damn, man, good to see you.
All right, lads.
Hey,
How's it
is
going?
everyone?
Are you sure you want in on this nonsense where we're pretending to talk like we know about stuff?
I tried, but.
So, Stan, we're talking financial fair play and the profit and loss of the S&P 500 over the past 13 semesters. I don't know what we're talking about, Stan.
When it comes to Man City, personally, I just wish they would just get on with it now, because
get on with
rightly so. Right,
Get
I know
on
what Mr.
with
Tom's saying, right? Yeah, exactly. I know Mr. Tom's saying it's like, it's going to take a long time to work it out, but just from the average person on the street, they've known about the Man City allegations for some time, and they're waiting for that answer. And then while they're waiting for that, they see all these other clubs pop up, go to court, get sentenced, and that's the end of it. And then you're scratching your head thinking, well, what about City?
Well,
and I just think the more that happens,
our review. That's
why I think the more they lose credibility for the way that it's perceived that they're dragging their feet. And as for saying, the FA will probably wait until it's mathematically impossible for them to win the league before they give them a points deduction. That would infer that they would be trying to do Man City a favour. And if they were trying to do Man City a favour, then they wouldn't be bringing the charges in the first place. So I don't think that they've got protection, so to speak. And I think that the league really wants to be able to show the British Parliament that they don't need to be overseen, that they doesn't need to be a watchdog governing those interests, and they want to look like that they're able to clean their own house. So I think something is going to happen to Man City, but they want to make sure that when they come out with their allegations and evidence or whatever, that it's ironclad. There's no room for maneuver. There's no wiggle room for Man City to weasel out, I think.
I'm sorry, I just called you Gary because I was like so infuriated with your answer. So it just reminded me of Gary. Stan, but you're saying it would be biased towards City, and I don't think it's that at all. I think it's protection of the Premier League, protection of money. Man City is a money maker right now because if you think about it, United, Arsenal, Chelsea, all these teams have had their fans forever. All the Man City fans are fake. So every season they convince people that there are City fans. So new people buy City jerseys and they get money. Sorry. Okay. Little tangent there. But Manchester City play really good football. They really do. Cheaters or not. They play really good football. They win trophies. They're fantastic for the Premier League. So taking away previous trophies is bad for business for the Premier League. Relegating City is bad for business for the Premier League. That's the only reason why I think this stupid, crazy conspiracy theory has the tiniest of legs to it, because it would be the safest thing for the Premier League to do. We did our business. We deducted points.
Of all leagues, though, of all leagues and of all teams, based on their...
There you go. Get on with it.
Based on their worldwide following, City is probably, of the big club, the big successful clubs in the Premier League, the least damaging for the Premier League to punish, because their worldwide fan base is not as big as United's, as Arsenal's, as Liverpool's. And this is not the same as if La Liga drops Real Madrid to the second tier. That's damaging because there's three, really there's two, but let's say three really big clubs in the Liga, or if the Bundesliga were to do that with Bayern, there's only really two. The Premier League can absorb it. I think United would get a more favorable treatment than City in this case, because I think
because it's Premier League. It's not the club. It's what's more important to the Premier League. And Nottingham Forest is not important, and Everton is not important.
But
right?
I think
Chris,
the
that's what you're
big
saying
key,
that I stepped over you on.
I think the big key though is that the British government, they're threatening to really stick their noses into the Premier League's business and try to have sort of like a governing body. And I hear what you're saying, that it's all about money and the money's coming in, but that money sloshing around in the pot is not going to be any good to the Premier League if they've got people from the government overwatching how that money is going to be used and spent. And I don't want that. So I think that they want to be able to make examples to turn around and say, see, we can take care of our own business. We don't need you. We're quite capable of policing our own industry. That's what this is all about, I think.
Right.
Yeah, because the British government isn't known as being very good at anything.
Competent.
Yeah. I was trying to put it a little bit not terrible.
Yeah, you know,
it's more like it's less of like threatening.
Maybe you need to mind your own affairs.
And it's funny because
the government is just saying, if you keep messing around, we're going to come in there and fuck things up even more. So
exactly,
clean house.
Like Mo was saying, like, you know, we all know that City had no real fans, and it seems like here in the States, at least, you know, we see a lot of kids and this younger generation wearing, you know, City City jerseys and City kits. You know, like you don't know the struggle they were in like 10, 15 years ago before the money came in. They're just like Everton is now. They're fighting for relegation, and they're a mess. And then
kids only care about the players, though. Like
I was gonna say, Lonnie, those same kids. Do you see them in another team's kit the next day? We have a kid down the block here who is not a fan of any Premier League team, but he watches every game. He has a De Bruyne kit. He has an Odegaard kit. He has kits of all of his favorite players, and he has no shame wearing a City jersey one day and a United jersey the next day.
Yeah, those kids
ain't cheap. Those kits ain't cheap. The New England top is going to cost you about $100.
We get them on the knockoff websites.
Yeah, and so
pounds. That's more than a Lacoste t-shirt. That's like a designer.
To me,
I'll send you the link for the sponsor for our show, because we get them for $14.
Lacoste. What is this? 1987.
Well, I'm wearing the Sergio Tacchini as well.
Back.
I'll be dressed in the 80s.
But my point being is, like,
bust out some of your Lacoste and sell them at the shop.
My point being is, like, there's no connection to a club anymore, right? I was always taught as a sports fan, you always stick to your favorite club or team. When you're a kid, you pick that team and you stick by them, right? And to me, as I'm observing these younger generations, there's not that anymore. There's like players or even clubs that they see on TV winning trophies a lot, like the Yankees. You know, I mean, some of these kids like the Yankees because they win a lot, right? That's just my observation. That, you know, there's no ties or there's no reason why you like the club anymore. It's just because they win a lot, right? That's just my point of view of how I see things nowadays.
Well, it's like, no, I'm right there with you, where you were raised to support your club, and that's your club. My daughter is a West Ham fan. She's 6 years old. She chose her club. She's West Ham. When Arsenal were playing West Ham just a month or so ago, I was like, hey, our teams are playing again. You guys beat us last time. And she goes, Poppy, I hope you guys win this time because we won last time. You can win this time. And I said, shut up. You never say that. You need to walk out of the room, walk back in and say, Poppy, we're going to beat you like we beat you last time. And so she did. I made her do it. And she came back and goes, Poppy, we're going to beat you like we did last time. And I'm like, yeah.
Jinxed her team.
Oh, my God. I can just see her face doing that because she's like, I don't want to say this.
She's rolling her eyes.
Me doing it.
Rolling her eyes for sure. Anyway.
Did she watch the full match against Arsenal?
She didn't watch any of it. She asked me how it went. And I was like, we won 6-0. And she was like, oh, good. And I'm like, girl. No, that's good for Poppy. That is not good for you.
My dad said
all right,
to
guys.
me, I can support anyone. I can support anyone I want, except I'd need to make plans because if I liked Manchester United, I'd need to find a new place to live.
That works. That works.
My daughter likes Crystal Palace because they're called Crystal Palace.
It makes a lot of sense.
I think it's as good as it.
Well, I mean, you know, look at Cantek's kid. He's a City fan. Don't know how that happened.
Oh, really? How did
Yeah.
that happen? Oh, he's a Holland fan. That's why.
I have no idea.
Ugh.
I have no idea.
See, I can like a player and hate their club. Like I like lots of players.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that like fantasy football has done a lot to promote that to where you can have like this cross-pollination between, you know, oh, I like this team and I like this team and I like this team.
I'll get there, Bandy. I'll get there.
Know? Or just at some point where it's like, you know, you're not limited to whatever the local team is on television. I mean, you can watch a match, you know, on any number of networks, you know, from the West Coast or from Spain, England, here, there, and you can cultivate a love because you're being exposed to them rather than they're just happen to be the team that plays down the road and that's who I support.
Yeah.
So you do regret your choice then to choose Wolves?
No, I don't. I stick by it 100%.
Saturday?
So much so that I was very pissed to hear that Nottingham Forest said to the league, but what about Wolves? Don't they get a point deduction? Fuck those guys.
And the Premier League said, we've been deducting them points all season. All
Fair
season.
enough,
Have you not been watching?
You know what? How much did you know, like it or not, I don't like that they were put in the situation, but in the last 2 seasons, they've been selling off players left and right. They saw it coming and they did something about it. And now we're running with the skeleton crew and we're not doing so bad.
You guys had 2 years of European money, right? And then
I guess.
And then 1 year. It shows how fragile it is, though. Like first 2 years, we got into Europa League both times, or
I think we were in Europa.
We finished 7th twice, but you only may have went to Europa once.
I think we only went once, but we were like did we make it to the quarterfinals or the semifinals?
Yeah, because you were in
one or the other.
You were in the mini tournament.
And then year 3 was like a fallback year. It was like 13th or 14th, and then all of a sudden,
well, that was the year that
Jota.
That David Luiz took out
Jimenez.
And then we were just kind of like, and we didn't have a striker, and we tried to force feed Fabio Silva in there, and we all know how that worked out.
But Jimenez is a good player for Wolves for kind of a 2 year stretch for them.
Yeah, he was
a shame.
His scoring was toward the top of the league. I want to say he had 20 plus goals the season before.
Mark, I'll tell you something. When I was at school, about 8 years old, I'm from London, right? And generally, everybody in my class or everybody in the school invariably supported either a London club, and you would have some kids that, even though they're from London, supported Man United because they had that big reputation. But there was this one kid in my class in London, 8 years old, he supported Wolves, which I never understood why. Because Birmingham was like 50 miles away.
Here's a question.
He supported Wolves, and it was just when it was around about that time when Molineux Stadium was the most expensive stadium that had been built for £1 million, and that was like a really big thing.
How far down the pyramid, if you have a local club, how far down the pyramid do they have to be before it's acceptable to support a club that's slightly further away? So if I don't know,
if you're wrecked,
if you live right next door to Barnet, like, are they far enough down where it's acceptable for you to be an Arsenal fan first?
A lot of Arsenal fans do live in Barnet.
Yeah.
Well,
but I think if Barnet went to the Premier League, Barnet would be your actual team.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they were a championship club, maybe you would have to be a Barnet fan, but because they're in the 5th tier, like I'm wondering, I want to know what level of the pyramid is that cut off where it's like, oh, I'm not a Millwall fan. Well, Millwall's second tier.
I'll tell you, Chris.
Well,
I'm from South London.
Brownie, answer his question then.
My nearest club to me was Millwall. I could probably have walked to Millwall's ground in about 25 minutes or so. But at that time, around about the 70s, Millwall had a reputation. So I wasn't going to get taken to Millwall with my dad to watch a football match because it wasn't the place that you would really want to take kids, right?
There was a lot of fights,
the next nearest club was Crystal Palace. And that was the first ground that I ever went to. It was my dad took me to Crystal Palace, but my dad's a Newcastle supporter because that's where his side of the family comes from. And so he took me to Crystal Palace, Newcastle, hoping I would come away as a Newcastle supporter. But it was my first ever football match, all standing, young kid, hairy-ass men shouting, waving rattles and that. I didn't really like the experience. But he took me back the following week, and it was Crystal Palace Arsenal. And then I started to pay attention to what was actually happening in the game, right? What was actually going on. And it was Liam Brady that I was watching quite a lot of. I came back from that game as an Arsenal supporter. But by rights, I suppose my nearest team was Millwall. And most of my friends in my area, around the streets where I lived, all of them are Millwall. Yeah, I was the only one that didn't support Millwall.
Do you think, to add to the answer of Chris's question, do you think it has a lot to do with how kind of dense the football clubs are in that area? Exactly.
No, Brownie just said that.
I didn't see that, Brownie. So, but you and I are on the same wavelength. So there's how many clubs in London? There's 12, 15. There's a lot of clubs. I mean, there's a lot of clubs.
Mark, I grew up a Dallas Cowboys fan, and it was a 10-hour drive to Texas Stadium.
Yeah.
But I was in Texas, so we had to be Cowboys fans.
Yeah. But if you're a small kid and your dad's a Millwall fan, invariably your dad's going to encourage you to support the same club that he does, right?
Well, yeah.
So I was a little bit different. I didn't live with my dad, so I didn't have my dad hounding me all the time. He used to come visit, right? It was separated. But most kids, if your nearest club is Millwall and your dad has grown up supporting Millwall and goes to Millwall, it's going to be very difficult for you to not support that team, right?
And London's so dense that I can see it. But there's probably a lot of Liverpool fans in Blackpool, is my guess.
And London. There was some at my school as well. Manchester United and Liverpool were the two clubs outside of London that people would support other than a London club and that one Wolves guy. It was generally Man U and Liverpool. No one else.
Do you think some of that was a byproduct that those clubs may have had a lot of players in the national team as well?
Probably that, but also two teams that have had a lot of glory, right? They've had a sort of, on the TV a lot, watching match of the day. I mean, I almost supported Manchester United as a small kid because my first ever thing about football was George Best. I was aware of George Best, which basically I was aware of football. And I almost supported Manchester United because I was a George Best fan. Thank God that fucking didn't last.
Do you find that local rivalries or derbies impact the way people support the national team because of the presence of a Chelsea player or a Spurs player on the national team? Or can you just retrain your mind to support that player?
I think ultimately you just support who you support. It's a bit like you can't help who you love, ultimately, to some degree.
Club before country.
So someone who would have been a really polarizing player.
I think what you got to keep in mind, Chris, in those days, with respect to Stan, he's talking a fair few years ago, but international football had a much higher prestige back then.
Yeah.
International break was a bigger deal. Even in the 90s, it was a bigger deal than it is now. It's the distraction. Now it's the week where you sit and hope your players barely play and definitely don't get hurt.
Or you call them back for injury.
Wanted your players
I hate
in the national team.
These are the worst weekends.
You wanted to see the best players.
Because it's not like your players are getting a rest. They're just playing a game. They might get.
Yeah, they're just playing a game that they might get injured in. I wanna. We're about time for a bio break, guys. But I just wanted to hit on some things to sort of end this topic that we've all been talking about. And it has a lot to do with what you were saying, Stan, about growing up and as a kid, your thought process. So I want to hit these comments. Christopher Ward, great comments already, all throughout the night, my man. Lolo, I assume you supported Arsenal as a kid and you didn't change. So what makes you think the young City fans will? Because nowadays, young fans are different than us. And if we try to understand what they're thinking, we'll be wrong a billion times. And then when we're finally right, they'll look at us and create another answer just to make us wrong. So new football fans are not the football fans of old, where we could continue a legacy of Arsenal supporting fans through our family. Now there's too much. They're seeing games. They're seeing games everywhere. You may have a kid in London who is more of a Bayern Munich fan than he is any team in the Premier League, which wouldn't have happened in the past. But now with the internet and with all the streaming options and things like that. Yeah,
especially
FIFA Ultimate
30s
Team.
and
That is
40s.
a huge, yeah, the 30s and 40s. But absolutely, Chris, the FIFA Ultimate Team is probably ruining it. It's probably doing the most damage.
But it's
because
also
they don't
bringing
get
a lot.
fantasy
Right? You
sports.
get more
It's
access
bringing
to
a
the
lot of
club,
kids
more
to the
access
game that
to the
wouldn't
players.
otherwise watch it.
Yeah.
So that's
that's an
answer
aspect
to
I
what
didn't
he's
even
saying.
think
The
about.
way our sport is viewed has changed into more of the American model, where you follow players because, as Stan said, the access to individuals and behind the scenes is greater than it's ever been. And by
You follow them on
margin.
Insta,
Yes.
When Mesut Ozil left Arsenal,
as well,
I guarantee
right?
you a lot of supporters went with him because they were Mesut Ozil supporters first. They came with Mesut Ozil
Absolutely.
and supported Arsenal, and they left with Mesut Ozil when he went to somewhere else.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's a different world. It's an absolute different world. And then the last thing that I just want to say here, where Christopher Ward again said, my dad is a Spurs fan. I supported Arsenal just to piss him off, and I fell in love with Arsenal. Well, here's a funny story that goes from Leeds to Arsenal to Leeds to Arsenal to Leeds to Arsenal. The reason I'm an Arsenal fan is because my brother-in-law is a diehard Arsenal fan and taught me all about football. John Lawler made me an Arsenal fan.
Top man. That's how you do it. Top man.
He is the eldest of like 47 children that his mom had. He's probably still having them right now as we speak. But every one of his brothers and sisters are Arsenal fans. They fly from Dublin every weekend to go and watch matches. It's crazy. And this is all because Lawler's dad was a diehard Leeds United fan, and Lawler just was like, fuck you, anybody else. And his uncle was like, Arsenal, you should support the Arsenal. You want to support the Arsenal. It comes off the tongue really well when you're Irish. You say Arsenal. And he made him an Arsenal fan. But he was like, I'm just going to piss off my dad by not being a Leeds United fan. And now here I am, made an Arsenal fan, and my channel is supported by Leeds United fans. Fucking what a world. What a way to go into a bio break, right? All right, guys, we are old men, and we have been drinking booze, so we are going to take a quick break. And
Get on with
Mark
it.
has a little trivia for you guys. Everybody who's in the chat here, I wrote a little note in the private chat about what I want to talk about in the second half. So just take a peek at that before you run off. And we will be right back with Betting in the Dark with Mr. Tom, and then we will be talking Premier League title race and which one of the non-3 title racing teams will have the biggest say in the title. So here we go. Let's watch it. We need music. And we're back. Maybe. I'm still muted. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Are you back? Are you back? Is everybody awake?
Can you hear me?
Hey there, buddy.
Hello.
All right.
I hear
All
you.
right. Good little break there. Okay, you guys ready to get to some betting action?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. Let's get to some betting.
Betting in the dark with Mr. Tom.
Come on, love, place your bets.
All right, betting in the dark with Mr. Tom. Just a reminder, these are bets that we request Tom to make that are crazy, and we can turn $1 or £1 into hundreds.
Many.
And they probably will not hit. So please bet responsibly or don't bet at all. But if you do win, let us know. All right, Tom, take it away.
Cyril's back, the international break. Cyril loves the international break for some reason, but I can't explain why. But yeah, I'm going with Watkins to score first in a 3-1 win over Brazil on absolute state. Last year, I believe, was the first time in their history they lost more games than they won. So that's obviously not ideal for a footballing nation of their standard. And I think Jared Bowen will get on the score sheet as well, because I don't believe Kane will be playing. And we'll be getting the customary Man City and Arsenal players dropping like flies to be ready for the return to Premier League football.
Well, you have two players in this match that aren't there. Saka pulled out and Gabriel Megalegs pulled out. And then Richarlison decided to punch Rodrigo in the face, and Richarlison got pulled from. So that's one way to get back to your team, I guess.
I think two City players have come
Is
home as well.
Neymar still on Brazil, or did he retire internationally?
Who?
Neymar?
Yeah,
I think he tried to drive one of his Lamborghinis over to England and
injured.
Like it didn't work.
Is he injured?
No, I think he's retired from international. I think World Cup was it for him.
Okay.
Two City players came back as well from this. I think Diaz and someone else.
I don't take pleasure in people getting injured, But I did laugh at the tweet that implied that Haaland hobbled out of training, and it was like, it started really early this week, did it? Haaland's his exit, his customary exit from international duty, started earlier than usual. But anyway, I digress. So England will win 3-1. Watkins to score first. Jared Bowen to score turn 1 into 105.
On a different topic, they should compress the club schedule and just do all the international games
exactly. Yes.
It would just make it.
Let the managers see who's fit at the end of the season, do the tactics all then, and they go into the tournament. Why not do that? It makes sense, Chris. I agree with you.
Because they got to build their rapport and blah, 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 blah.
I think it's more about money, Yeah,
they need to get.
There's a lot of money of people buying these tickets and buying jerseys, and it's a revenue stream.
And Wembley doesn't make any money if no one's in there, right? They've got to keep putting people into Wembley.
Yep.
Yeah, you saw what they did to the jerseys, where they're like, "Oh, we'll just change the colors of the flag and try to sell more jerseys," and it ended up pissing more people.
Looked awful.
I will watch
La
Liga Segunda division instead of any of these international games.
Yeah. Well, while you guys are here checking out Betting in the Dark, don't forget, just hit that like button for us if you're here watching us. It does help us a lot with all the numbers and computer algorithm type things. So there's a bunch of us in the show watching right now. Just hit that button. It helps us a lot.
That means we get
it saves us from FFP.
May I just say about this particular bet? I like this bet, but there is one element to this bet that I'm not sure about. I'm not sure if Ollie Watkins will be starting the game ahead of Ivan Toney, because I think that Gareth Southgate probably sees Ivan Toney as a similar style of player, nearer to Harry Kane than Watkins. And might not. I'm not saying that Ollie Watkins won't get on, but if he doesn't start, then there's less opportunity for him to score first, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's understandable. I mean, I just picked one of them, in all truth. But yeah,
fair enough. But
yeah,
I mean, if anyone deserves to start, till the 70th, it's Ollie Watkins. I mean, he's having an incredible season.
Couldn't agree more.
And Bowen.
I think also Jared Bowen's kind of. I think Jared Bowen also has been a pretty good player for West Ham. I think this year and last year he kind of showed that he belongs on England's teams now. So he's done pretty well for himself as well.
He's been good through the middle too.
Got a hat trick, didn't he, recently?
These lads are on fire, arguably. So anyway, we'll see how it turns out. Director John, if you please. Right, we're going for the what would you call it? The Euro 2000. Is it playoff qualifier or playoff? I don't know what they call it.
It's a final.
One was won yesterday. Sorry, Brownie, avert your eyes. But we're going with Big Rob to score first, and then Little Dan to score either second or last or whatever. But you can turn it into a nearly 200. And I know loads of people are going to be upset with this because, you're going against the Leeds players. Well, Leeds players, I don't give a fuck what they do when they're wearing that shirt, as long as they don't get hurt.
It's worth a quid. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, that's
just
not
come
bad.
home safe and fit. I'm talking like they're going to war. Well, arguably they are, depending on their passion for the Wales national team. But yeah. So we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Brownie's already declared it's definitely going to lose. Why is it going to lose, Brownie? Out of interest. Rhetorical question, of course. But
maybe he thinks the score will be reversed. I don't know.
Who else does Wales have?
He is Welsh.
Harry Wilson.
Exactly.
Welsh?
It's a big clue.
Who else is a good candidate to score for Wales?
Not Gareth Bale.
Dean Saunders.
Isn't Rico what's his name? Rico Lewis?
Rico Lewis, is he Welsh?
Nico Williams scored yesterday. Well, to be fair, him, Dan, Brendan Johnson, they all scored yesterday. They won 4-1, didn't they?
Brennan Johnson.
Robson Carno, does he still play for them?
Brennan Johnson, that's a good one.
Hal Robson-Kanu is the greatest player I've ever known to like literally create employment for himself based on one goal in the international tournament.
There was
played for Wales, didn't have a club, did he? He didn't have a club to play. He's just playing for Wales.
It was incredible. The goal he scored was amazing. But he was like,
he was like, who was the guy in Chile, Vargas, who would like score like 2 goals in every game in South America and would just never play in Europe?
Don't remember.
I think he has more goals than Alexis Sanchez over the same time period as a national team player.
Incredible.
No clue. No clue, none. Chris. Too deep for us.
Look it up.
I'm not gonna.
Nope. Eduardo Vargas. All right, next one, Tom.
Right. Okay, we're going into the dirges of because come on, it's international break. I mean, you're lucky I've not found Fishermania 28 or whatever again. But
yeah, it's not happening right now.
That's true. That's more of a summer thing. But I'm going for Wrexham to get the win at Grimsby. Is Mullins obviously going to score first? You know they've got Stephen Fletcher, who most known, I believe, for
Sunderland.
Yeah, but he put out a photo of his car on the day that they'd lost, and he got a lot of shit for it. He was bragging about his, I think it was his Jag. I may be wrong on that, but yeah, you can turn 1 into 160. Wrexham, I believe, are 3rd. Grimsby are, I think, they're 4th and bottom.
4 teams go up in League 2, right?
That's true. So we'll see how that pans out. But I would have done Swindon Town, the musical, for Director John, but they are not playing this weekend.
Assuming they go up again, because 4 teams go up and they're in 3rd, you think League 1 is a place where they stall for a while?
No, not at all. There's too much money wrapped up into this. I've maintained this for like the last year and a half. There's a lot of money tied up into Wrexham to succeed, and it's just you don't stop money. I don't think they stall out.
Can I just say to Christopher Ward, don't worry, mate. I was exactly the same. I'm like, who?
Yeah, who are these?
Paul Mullin.
No, Paul Mullin. He's that guy from the documentary.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never watched that Wrexham documentary.
Always Sunny documentary.
I watched a bit of the first one. Is it any good? Is it worth watching?
It is worth watching in hindsight, because you know where the journey sort of ends. I know they're still doing it, keeping it going, but you know there's a point like where they're going to get promotion, which automatically sort of makes it interesting, because you know there's. I'm sure you get what I mean. Like there's actually something that happens.
Okay. It's an interesting watch and it delves into the ownership process of like what it takes to actually own a club like that. So I still think they're doing highly illegal shit. The fact that TikTok is on their shirt and the gin is on their shirt, and you're like, wait. Doesn't he own Aviator Gin? Like how can your owner?
He actually sold it. He's just a spokesman for it.
He owns a mobile company as well, though, doesn't he? Is that how they sponsored by mobile?
He sold the mobile company too for like $700 million or something stupid like that.
He's gone from a decent actor that with some cash
to a very, very wealthy man
to a very wealthy dude.
Not as wealthy as Matthew Flemini.
Flemini is like a billionaire. He's not a billionaire. He has $1 billion company.
They said, I think he said he's worth about 10 billion. I was reading just the other week. Wow.
It's what he's worth. It's not what he has. He's clarified to people. He's like, I don't have $10 billion. Like, stop it.
Yeah, he's not liquid for that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like my company because he's literally like a rocket scientist. Like he's.
And they were asking him as well
right.
if they ever thought that maybe in the future would he try to buy Arsenal, and he said who knows, was his answer.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Bit too polite to say no.
All right,
Mr. Tom.
All right, Tom, is that it, or do we have a bonus?
Stan, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I was only doing what you would have said if I'd have gone, oh, Tony Yeboah says who knows when buying Leeds United. I'm like, stepping on my dreams, Big Tony. But anyway,
I gotta say bonus points to director John for the little "It's Always Sunny in the Dungeon." That's
never
class.
sunny in the dungeon. Anyway,
Yeah, but he's got the right font and everything. There you go. I love it. There you go, John. Bonus points. Minus red. You get a blue card. Purple card. Whatever.
I believe we may have a bonus one. A special bonus one for the international break. Here we go. It's the Marcelo Bielsa special. Just going for a nice, simple, clean. They're scoring goals hand over fist.
Throw in a couple Darwin Núñez goals. See what the odds go to.
Admittedly, because this game was on Tuesday, I didn't have the option to pair it with the goal scorers. Otherwise, I would have put Núñez in this almost certainly to bump it up. But just a 40-1 for 4-1. Ivory Coast are fresh off winning the AFCON, aren't they?
I didn't read the top bit. I thought that was the Irish flag.
They fired their coach in the middle of the tournament.
I'd have been 4-0 if it was Ireland. They're not in great health at the moment, are they? The Irish national team. But it was just always nice to see Marcelo doing well.
I think there should be. I want to see Ireland play Ivory Coast and then have a split scarf, and then not be able to tell that it's a split scarf.
Half and half, yeah.
I was there. Where? What were you at?
What?
No, you'd go, I was there. And they'd be like, you were at what?
Yeah.
Because
other way.
That's why it's the wrong way around, yeah.
Yeah. Like if those were your two clubs, you could save money on flags that you bring to the game. Just be like,
Anywho.
Okay, guys.
The Irish flag.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom, for that. Really appreciate it. So, fellas, what I want to talk about for the remainder of the show is it's a very interesting title race that we have going on here, and it's as close as I've ever seen it, especially with two of the three who are in the top three right now facing each other in the next match coming up. So this is a title race which should be a ton of fun, but I want to know who you all think will have the biggest say. I want to know who you guys think will have the biggest say in this title race besides those top three teams. So, I have for you the run-in. Sorry, John, I'm going to pop this up here if you want to pop that out. The run-in of the final matches that Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City have to play. So you can see Aston Villa play Arsenal and Liverpool and Man City.
Wolves play all three towards the end.
Tottenham play Liverpool,
Brighton are on
Arsenal,
all three as well,
and City. Wolves play Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, and City. Who guys, any one of these teams that goes on an actual run against, I mean, this is a much meatier question than you guys may have thought when I first presented it, but now seeing that, who do you guys think is going to have the biggest say in the title, in who wins the title? Is it going to be Tottenham, Wolves, Aston Villa, Manchester United? Chelsea plays two of those teams.
Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool. I would have guessed.
I think Aston Villa are the one that may have the most impact because of the kind of season that they're having and the manager that he's very tactically sound. I think Unai Emery. He sort of likes to change the tactics depending on the opponent. I just think that maybe they're going to have something to say. Some of the other teams are a bit streaky, aren't they? Man United are quite streaky. Tottenham are a little bit streaky, but I think Villa, are the most consistent out of those other teams. And I suppose their league position shows that, right?
What about the consistency of Tottenham and Wolves?
Wolves always give City a game.
Their opponents. They play up to their opponents. Tottenham can beat. I feel that Tottenham could beat anybody this season on their perfect day. Problem is they don't have many perfect days. Tottenham always beat Arsenal at home, and Arsenal always beat Tottenham at home when we're at home. We drew with them this season. Is a draw in order, or are we going to finally get that monkey off our back and beat them? I think we beat them. No, they beat us last season, did they?
No, we did a double on them.
I mean, my perspective is
we did the double last year.
Only Arsenal can beat themselves. They're the most informed.
That's not one of the options right now.
I know, but I want to talk. They're the most informed team by far. They're certainly healthier than at least Liverpool is. And they don't have this sideshow that Man City does. Not that it's likely that Man City is going to get point deduction between now and
Chris, I didn't know you were going to speak this way about Arsenal. I would have made you full screen so I can clip you out.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but I think City's always capable of spitting off 10 in a row. So I think the fact that Wolves play all three and that Wolves play City, I think pretty hard every time. I think they're always a really good competitor against Liverpool as well. And while some might view them as on the beach at that point of the season, I don't think that's the mentality of that team. I think they'll say we're playing with house money and anything is, and actually Wolves have an opportunity to go into Europe, right? So I think that's the team.
We are such a thin squad. It is an absolute miraculous statement to say that the Wolves are doing well this season because they are so thin.
I know, but
we went into that Coventry game with our entire starting front line out to injury.
It's better to have loved and lost.
Fair. I can't say enough. And the fact that we're even mentioning Wolves as a team that could have something to say about how the title race is decided is astonishing to me, given where we were at the start of the season. The good thing about these matches, if we're going to look at anything good, is that they're still about a month away. I think before we play Arsenal, before we play City, before we play anyone in the top four, I think. So we get Arsenal in 5 weeks. We get Liverpool in 9 weeks, and we get is that in 7 weeks? I'm not really sure. Just doing the quick math. We should get at least Konya and Hee-chan back, that Korean guy. It does look like Neto is out for the season. Although they're still holding.
Mark, what about Hwang? Is he out still?
That's Hee-chan. And so we're hoping hoping to get him back.
I like that guy.
I think he's spectacular. It's unfortunate that he couldn't stay healthy. But more important, beyond the injuries, that Gary O'Neill's got Wolves playing. He's got them going, you know what? You guys just go out and get it. You can do it. And I think, just looking at that Coventry game, for as injured as they were, and it didn't turn out their way, and it was a bit of a disheartening. Actually, it was quite disheartening loss.
I mean,
but I mean, heading into stoppage time, we were up 2-0 or 2-1. With nobody. With Morgan Gibbs-White, who's a right back, moved into a forward spot. Which I think maybe that's a little blessing in disguise. We kind of see what we have in him. So to talk about Wolves and playing a spoiler or having some sort of influence on this title race is pretty fucking awesome, as far as I'm concerned.
Mark, didn't Morgan Gibbs-White pay for Nottingham Forest?
Yep.
Morgan Gibbs-White played for Wolves, and we sold. Who the fuck is Morgan Gibbs-White for $45 million to Nottingham Forest, according to Mr. Tom? Because I'll never forget that. For as long as I live, I will never forget the text on the chat that was, "Who the fuck is Morgan Gibbs-White, and why is he worth $45 million?"
Well, I think Arsenal and Liverpool both having a derby match at the end of the season could throw. I mean, they should both beat those teams, but if there's anyone that wants to spoil their seasons, Chelsea and Everton will want it as much as anyone else.
Yeah, I'm assuming the bold is matches at that team's home. Is that correct?
At the column's home. So for Arsenal column, if it's in bold, it's at Arsenal.
Gotcha.
Right. That's kind
of
what
like when we play City, we're away.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to look at the Aston Villa. Aston Villa are terrible away, as somebody said. Christopher Ward, Villa away are bad, but they are very good at home, and they play Liverpool at home. They beat Arsenal and they beat Man City at home. So will they beat Liverpool at home? They could. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the
Tottenham
next
play two of these matches at home.
The next three for Villa might be kind of tough because of the suspension to John McGinn.
Yeah, but
I think he's more valuable to that team than a lot of people let on.
Did he get 3 games?
He got it's a straight red. It was a straight red, yeah.
So he's out for City. He's out for the City match.
He's out for.
So look at these stats down here, guys. By the way, if we look at average,
Brentford and Arsenal.
So if we look at average current position of the opponents, Arsenal are actually in the lead here of weakest opponents at 9.2.
Isn't 9.2 stronger because it's higher up the table?
Right, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
Average position.
You have the easiest hardest away schedule.
9 or better.
You gotta love that El Paso school system.
El Paso
lower is better.
Thank you very much. So actually, Arsenal have the hardest schedule. Okay, good. Liverpool are the ones who can bottle it.
But what's the away? What do the away opponents look like? That's kind of
the away opponents. You guys are at 9. We're at 6. So that's where we're screwed. Our away opponents have 6 are 6th place.
So City has the easiest away opponents, and then the home opponents don't really.
And they destroy people at home. So
that's where it gets scary.
I look at these 3 teams at the top that we're looking at, and for me, they're all capable. Us, Liverpool, and Man City, all capable of scoring goals. But I think it's the defense which is going to be the key for these 3 teams. And I think out of the 3 teams, Liverpool are the most suspect at the back. I think they're the ones that are capable.
Look at the goals against in the table.
Goals.
Let's look at the goals against in the table.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wait. Goals for and against?
Goals against in the table. How are they? That's just the right smack in between Arsenal and Man City.
They just felt a bit leaky.
We've given up 40.
Not as bad as I thought it was. But they do seem to have a more suspect back to me.
That's funny. I think we have the strongest back two when Kanate and Van Dijk are both healthy.
So are you saying have injuries right now?
As you guys are forcing me to look at this table, I just have to say, it looks like Arsenal have the most goals and the least against.
Exactly.
Why are you making me look at this again? Because like
we can keep that up.
So I'm saying like
It's turning me on really staring at that.
I'm just saying the goals against at the top of the table, there's a clear tranche of teams that don't look like the rest of them.
Yeah, that big difference right there. Trunch.
Yeah, like you could
the word of the day.
You could basically put Villa in like 11th place, and it would still make
Where's
sense.
that Pee-wee gif? We need the word of the day is trunch.
One game that I think would be surprising.
Look at Man United, 0 goal differential.
I think one game.
And yet they are in 6th place. You know, I mean they're
incredible. They were like that last year too. I think last year's table they were only like a +4 at the end of the year.
Yeah,
one game that will surprise me is Luton versus City. Because for some reason Luton have a lot of heart and they won't give up until the final whistle. And I see them maybe upsetting Manchester City. But that's just me.
Well, if we go back to the graphic that Lolo had up first, with as far as like the remaining schedule, you know, John, can we get that one up? The first graphic that we had. There we go. I mean, if I'm looking at this schedule and I'm looking at Arsenal, and the worst teams they're playing are Luton, Bournemouth, Everton, and Chelsea. That list of the worst that's not exactly the worst. I mean, Luton will give you a game, and we certainly remembered the game that they gave Arsenal at Luton, where it took a little bit of the whistle blows when Arsenal scores. You know, we know that Bournemouth is capable. If the bold. What did he say? The bold is the away game? No, that can't.
It's a home game.
Bold means they're home.
The bold has to be the home game. I mean, Everton could be like, you know, you never know. Chelsea, you never know what they're going to give you. Bournemouth, you never know.
Brighton too.
You look at Liverpool and you say, well, you know, Sheffield, Crystal Palace. We know what's going to happen there.
Well, let's face it,
we've got a pretty good idea.
Arsenal City match is extremely important if it's not a draw.
Sure,
I think if there's a loser in that match, I think the margins are so tight that the loser
right.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that the teams that Arsenal and Liverpool and City are playing. The so-called gimme games, the ones that you were like, oh, we're definitely going to get 3 points, are not exactly the gimme games. You know, Luton's going to be a tough one. Bournemouth is going to be tough. Everton could be tough. Chelsea will definitely be tough. If you go to Liverpool, Sheffield, and Palace, if I'm Liverpool, those games don't scare me. If I'm City, Forest does not scare me. They probably and Crystal Palace doesn't scare me.
Yeah, but Palace is always Liverpool's what do they call it? Trip game or what's that?
They're kryptonite.
Yeah, they're like the way Wolves are City's kryptonite. Palace has always been ours. We're home. It's usually when we go to Selhurst, it's an issue.
But to me,
Sheffield United is the only slam dunk. In my mind, the only
Tom
certain win.
Tom,
right?
Hello.
You know, it's an hour and 44, and we haven't talked about who's in first place there.
The world's best team.
Wait,
the only team I give a shit.
Leverkusen.
Wait, Tom, who's in first place?
Leeds United.
Oh, hold on. I've got footage where you didn't believe that was ever possible. Roll that.
Especially at home, tells me that we can, but we've got to get. Come on now, sir. Come on, 16 points.
Did you see that eye roll he gave Bandy's comment when Bandy said Leeds?
Yeah.
Let's watch
Especially
it again.
At home, tells me that we can, but we've got to get. Come on now, sir.
Stops him in his tracks. I hate to say, I was right there and I shook my head as well.
But
I was probably just following you.
He
Tom.
didn't follow up. It's a typical thing. What Tom said right after that, I hope I'm wrong. Right, Tom? Is that what you said?
Bandy conveniently always leaves out the part where I say I hope he's right.
John, this is like
let's say tells me that we can, but we've got to get. Come on now, sir. Come on, 16 points, mate. Plus, no one hates Leicester, whereas everyone turns up against Leeds.
I don't know, Tom. I don't think you ever said he was right there.
I
don't think.
Come on, Tom.
Do not post,
you told us to roll the footage.
Do not collect £200. Monopoly.
Sorry. When one of our longtime Stoop crew members sends me footage, I have to play it. So please continue sending me footage, everybody. I will play it on the show.
We're gonna have to play the whole 2-hour show then.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll get on that right now.
So for me, I think that the Brighton away game kind of scares me a little bit because they're pretty good at home. So that could also be one of those games to look out for as well. The Brighton away.
Yeah. Brighton away.
Yeah.
But Liverpool play Brighton away at home. Man City.
The thing is, like, the reason why Brighton away wouldn't scare me as an Arsenal fan, I think it would have last year just because they had the propensity to second guess how attacking they should be. Again, like Brighton will want to be attacking, which means Arsenal will have space. And Arsenal this year should just always embrace who they are, as opposed to last year where I think sometimes they try to play it both ways sometimes, and then it bit them in the ass.
That's a good point, Chris.
Well, I think that's what's happening.
Still
Chris.
could lose because Brighton could score 4, but like Arsenal can score 5 is the thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Chris, I think you nailed it for a lot of what is happening at Arsenal this season, which actually has a lot of Arsenal fans pissed off, is that the way we were playing is in so much more of a smooth progression. And I feel like Arsenal fans wanted what we've had the last month. They wanted that in the beginning of the season. They wanted us destroying teams 5-0, 6-0. When we took the beginning of the season as a slow build and a slow grind, integrating new players, integrating a different system, fucking with the goalkeeper, all of that. Meanwhile, eking out 1-0 wins, 2-1, 3-1, sort of just eking out these wins and staying in it.
Like
last year you didn't have Champions League to contend with.
Last year, we weren't expected to be anywhere near where we were last year.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is this year you have a quality of competition interwoven with the Premier League that, you know what, you need to pull back on the Jets a little bit and play and get through your group stage. The games in Champions League they're spread a little more apart.
So
this is
where I disagree. I totally understand where you're coming from in terms of prioritizing one over the other. I think this Arsenal team is successful because they actually believe in themselves in a way where they were kind of concerned that they may have been frauds last year. So at this point, I think they just have to embrace it and just go after everything, because it just reinforces that they're as good of a team as they actually are. And that Odegaard, I said it last week, is on the precipice of being the best player in the league. I think he's still a notch behind De Bruyne, maybe a slight notch behind a healthy Salah. But next year, I think he's the best player in the league. That's what they have to embrace. Just embrace the greatness. I
think the difference between De Bruyne and Odegaard at this point is up in here. I don't know if any. Maybe it's just me. When I watch Arsenal play, but it always just seems like when Odegaard has the ball and there's this opportunity to pass and get the ball to somebody or to shoot the ball, there's this. To me, there's like this half second of hesitation that De Bruyne doesn't have. De Bruyne is he's just on autopilot.
Yeah, he's on.
He does it, and he does this really great shit. Physically and as far as exactly.
But being this far behind the best midfielder in the world's not that far behind,
No, fair.
Yeah.
I think another key element, though, is if Arsenal has one of their key players gets injured, it's really going to hurt, like a Saliba or a Declan Rice or a Saka. It really would hurt. And I think the same goes for Liverpool as well. But with Manchester City, if they lose a key player, they're going to have someone that will come in, and the drop-off will not be as big as it would be, perhaps, for a Liverpool to lose a Salah or for Arsenal to lose a Saka or a Declan Rice. It worries me. It worries me that if we do lose a key player, that could be the wheels falling off, like Saliba last season.
Sure. But as far as Liverpool has had substantial injuries, and they are still where they are. City, for me, you want to talk about players drop off. Sure, they have the luxuries, but. To me, to the one player that they lost, they didn't really have someone to fill in those shoes. Was Gundogan, and I think that we've seen a little drop off from City's play this season for that very reason.
But then you've got players like Phil Foden's really started to pick up the slack. He's got other players that are really starting to emerge and almost commanding to have a starting place. And Alvarez as well.
Then
Alvarez,
they've got to do that for the next 10 games.
Yeah,
Foden's got to step up.
Marcus, it's interesting that you mentioned Odegaard because I feel like hesitation in trying to get his shot off. And to me, I think, like you said, he's kind of not lacking confidence, but he is lacking something where most of the shots he takes, it gets kind of it'll get blocked. It'll get blocked, and you see some of those shots that could potentially go in.
Lonnie, we're towards the end of the show where if you look like you're supposed to be in a clean music video, you kind of take precedent.
And now is the time when Sprocket for which we dance.
Continue.
I just need a little duck right here now.
So
continue. Go back to what you were saying.
Like I was saying, I think Odegaard can be able. He could take his shots more frequently and not give up, but also not be so hesitant, because I've seen it where he's getting his shots blocked by center backs or defensive midfielder from another team. But I think I see him taking less shots and getting more assists in this year, and it shows that the quality he has in his passing, hence the Trossard goal against Porto. So you're seeing more assists from him this year, whereas last year he scored more goals. So to Mark's point, I see a little bit of hesitation when he is taking shots.
And I think you should take it to the paint more. Like when he's dribbling the ball, they don't call fouls on him. Remember that?
God damn it, Chris.
Just take it to the paint.
He didn't dribble the ball. He was
Dribbled the
falling
ball.
down.
I think
He dribbled
They
that
reviewed
ball,
it.
son.
Not a handball.
He did a killer
Yeah.
crossover.
Badge
It's
check
not a handball.
complete.
He did
Badge
a killer
check
crossover.
complete.
Badge
Right.
check complete. It's Live VAR pool for a reason.
Between Odegaard doing a killer
Arsenal.
crossover and Doku kicking, high leg into a chest, and then a bad offside call at Tottenham, we've got like 5-point separation at the top of the table. Come on.
5 point. Get the fuck out of here. Either way, I'm just so glad that we beat you. So, like, the invincible season that you were about to have is over. Because
it was already over.
had you all gone invincible, but only lost that Tottenham match, I would have given you that, because that
the best part
Tottenham
is
match was
there was like a study released that we've lost even more points than Wolves on bad VAR calls over the last 2 seasons, but we're Live VAR pool.
Unless you played
that game doesn't go away
be
ever.
offsides and score a
because
point
we got
or
to see
score
the
a
ones
goal.
that you got as well.
Okay, it's called net points though.
No.
Or
Yeah,
how about the
those
VAR
net points
decision
are
when we
written by
played
some
you guys in
blogger.
the FA Cup, where it was like, no, he was offsides. We don't have it on camera, but he was offsides. I love that one. That was the one that was the replay.
I'm still convinced he was
1-1 or something.
offside based on physics and where he could have been at that point in time.
I know. Just the sheer fact that they were like, well, he was. We just don't have proof. You'll just have to trust us.
That sounds fine.
That's how it went. It sounds fine when it goes in your favor. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, this has been a great, fun show. I hope you guys have had a good time. Lonnie, are you doing any shows this week? You want anything? You want to plug anything?
Yeah, so I'm going to do a show on Sunday, probably after the NASCAR race. My podcast is the Arsenal Trips Galaxy podcast. I usually do it in the Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock in the morning, but I'm working. So I might do one Sunday evening. But yeah, to also plug Tom's podcast, the Full Nelson podcast. Soon we'll be talking about WrestleMania, and I'll be on it WrestleMania both nights. And also the DWTT podcast, Gary's podcast, doing it Monday.
What schedule you got there?
Hey man, I gotta do as much as I can.
All right, Tom, what are you up to?
Oh right, sorry. I thought I'd hired Alonso to basically tell everyone my schedule.
Don't be a dick.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, we'll be going live on Sunday night, obviously, for more hijinks and stuff relating to the season so far and all that. Did you know Leeds have made it? I think it'll be 5 Eastern. Until the 31st, anyway.
Okay.
But it don't matter.
Tell Ben you should be a fan of York instead of Leeds.
You going to talk about this team up here on the number 1 spot?
We certainly will be.
They're number 1 with a goal, with a game in hand, with the other team with the game in hand. So
who does Leicester? I wonder what that Leicester game in hand is.
It's a soft game in hand. It's a soft number 1, I would say. All right, Stan, what are you up to? Where can we find you?
I'll be on the Sunday show on Arsenal Fan Circle with Ray and the rest of the lads, and that's probably it for the weekend.
You know, if Arsenal was at the top of the table and the team behind them had a game in hand, it wouldn't be a soft game in hand. No, it would be.
It would be, but I would be screaming like it was not soft at all. Like right now, we're tied on points, but goal differential. That's why we beat up on those little clubs. So
that's why we got to put 11 past
top
Sheffield
of the
United.
league. Are we top of the league? Are we top of the league? I don't know, Chris. Are we top of the league?
We can start judging the league after this next game because we don't play. None of us play each other for the rest of the year after this next.
Weren't you top of the league last year
after
too?
This next week.
Ooh,
well, we were we were top of the league a lot last year. No, here's the thing. I'm hoping Liverpool draw their match. You guys play the morning before Arsenal play Man City. So if you draw that match and then we draw, we're all tied. No, you're tied on points with City, I think, and we have one more point. I don't know. It's crazy. It's all like still 1 point. So that would kind of be the best result for the Premier League for the weekend is for Liverpool to draw and City and Arsenal to draw, and we'd all just continue on that route. Like, keep it tight till the end. Let's have some fun.
When we get Jota back.
Nobody agrees with that. All right, guys. Well, that's been a shit ton of fun. That's been happy hour. I hope you guys have had some fun and had some drinks and all that. Thank you to getting rid of my hiccups. But thank you to Director John. This is not going well.
What are those?
All right, John, we're gonna reset. Can you cut and we'll start again? We'll start again. Ready? In 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. This has been a great happy hour show. Thank you, Chris, all the way from Jersey. Thank you, Lonnie, Mr. Tom, Spawny Mark, and Stan the Man. And don't forget Director John. He's the guy who keeps everything running. Please join us next week.
Loving Color.
And
don't forget the omnipotent head of Dirty Diaper Jersey.
Sting.
I almost had it.
I've got no body.
Good night, everybody. Please just.